What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be talking about a really fun little knife. This is the Windrunner Snake River Edition by TOPS Knives, and this is more of a neck knife for me, or an EDC for me. In what I do, you're really not allowed to carry a fixed blade. Okay, I work in an office and I can't be parading around with a fixed blade. But this is just a small enough knife that I can kind of get away with it, if it's not too visible. If I'm wearing like a sweater and I'm wearing it on my belt, it's small enough that it kind of, it passes incognito, if you will. So there's two versions of this knife. This is the Snake River edition of the Windrunner, and this is the one that is the regular version, and there's a bigger version that is the XL. In reality, the other one should probably be the regular one, and this one the mini, because this is such a small knife. So let me give you kind of a tour of the knife. You've got this really, really attractive, at least in my opinion, kind of recurve a blade with a drop point at the top. You have some jimping with some speed holes in the blade. This is 1095 steel by TOPS. They usually that's the steel that they typically use. You've got green micarta with red liners on the back. You've got a little bit of a lanyard hole here in the back, and you got a fully fingered ergonomic handle here for the knife. This is a very, very small knife. It's a small knife by most any standard, but especially for a fixed blade. I can't find my ruler, so I'm gonna give you the size comparisons, but I can't find exactly where my ruler went. So let me give you the size comparisons here. See, that is the SE3, which is not a large knife to begin with, and that is the SE5. So as you can tell, this is a very, very, very small knife. In fact, the sheath that it comes with, it has a neck lanyard, so you put it up around your neck. So it's really meant to be more of a secondary neck knife type of a blade. Now, for those of you who only have folders, let me give you, that is a pair of 3, and that is a pair of 2. So as you can see, it's a really small knife. I mean, it's a lot smaller than the pair of 3, which is already a small knife. In fact, this is a Benchmade bug out. A mini bug out, and that is still in length, probably about the length of the Windrunner. So it's a really, really, really small knife. So let's get into the review here, and we can talk about it. So let's talk ergonomics. So the ergonomics on this are hard to describe. So let me tell you why. This portion of the knife to about right here is excellent. My 3 fingers land excellently. But this thing, the lanyard, it goes in between my fingers right there. And it's very uncomfortable in between the fingers right here. I don't know if you can tell. And there's no other way to really hold it. I mean, if I put my pinky over here, then this sticks into my pinky. If I go over here, then it goes in between in between my fingers. So the ergonomics on this portion of it are excellent, but this thing, the lanyard contouring that they've done, and it's not meant, I mean, obviously it's 1, 2, 3 fingers, so it's a 3-finger grip, but they giving you no place to put your 4th finger, and most of us have 4 fingers on this side of the hand. So so the ergonomics, man, it's like they wanted to be really good, and then they became crap here at the end. Now, obviously, this size of a knife, you don't need great ergonomics. This isn't going to be a hard use or anything, but still, you know, you almost have to kind of do like a British teacup thing where you kind of have to get your pinky up. So ergonomics they want to be great, but back here they just become really, really, really bad. Cutting. So I generally don't go for recurves because I struggle to sharpen them. I use a Hapstone fixed system. Now I know that you could do like a Spyderco Sharp Maker, so one of those. I just don't use those. So sharpening recurves is a lot harder for me. So I typically don't go for these. But this is kind of a secondary neck knife for me. So that's why I decided to get this one. And the cutting is actually really, really good. It's not a thick blade stock. So if I compare it to, how's the best way to do it? Here. So the blade stock is damn near identical, a little bit thinner than it is again in the Parrot 2. And that's already a fairly slicey knife. Obviously, if I compare it, so it's about the same thickness, yeah, just about the same thickness as the SE3. So it's a very slicey knife, and the recurve geometry is one of the best geometries for cutting. Especially food preparation, skinning, those kinds of things. This is the shape of the recurve draws the material in when you're going going into the cut. The fact that your cut is diagonal to whatever you're cutting, it gives you a really nice kind of knife to cutting material geometry. Those angles work really well when you've got a recurve. So I would classify it as a really, really nice cutter. Obviously, it's a really small knife, and in fact, there's a version where you can get the small one and the big one, and they come in sheets that are just nested, and that looks really cool. I haven't wanted to pull the trigger on the large one, again because of the recurve. I'm okay with the recurve on this small blade, but generally for a larger blade, I like a more traditional style of a blade. But I would say that cutting is really good. I think the recurves are outstanding for cutting. It just sucks that they're a lot harder to sharpen than your traditional blade shapes or blade grinds. Fit and finish on TOPS knives is excellent. They've been doing fixed blades for a very long time. I think the handles, they're not quite at Bark River level of ergonomics, but they're pretty decent. Again, it's a shame about this thing in the back. They have to do something about this lanyard thing in the back. But the fit and finish, I think, is really, really good. My only problem is, 1095 steel is used by a lot of people, including Essie, because it's a carbon steel and can be used in a survival situation for starting a fire, right? It acts, you can strike a spark using this steel. A lot of your M390s or your LMAX or your 3V are a lot harder to provide a spark with those than it is with this. But for me, whenever I'm going out in the woods or whenever I'm doing something, outdoors, camping or something like that, I'm always carrying a ferro rod with a dedicated striker. So I think that 1095 is a durable steel, but I think it's just an old steel. I think the technology on the steels has gotten much better, and there's versions of not of this specific knife, but TOPS makes knives that are at least CPM 154, and while that's not a great super steel, I think it's a decent step up from 1095. So my hope is that they kind of move on from 1095. It's just the corrosion resistance is not there. You know, it's decently tough. The edge retention is probably not there, you know, up there with your 3Bs of the world. So I wish that they kind of that they would kind of evolve, you know, and they don't get set in their ways of, oh, 1095 is, you know, is the thing to be. You know, that's kind of the mentality. But even SE started making, I think they're using S35VN, which again, it's not state of the art anymore. You know, there, you know, even Cruz Reeve has moved on from S35VN, who developed it, to S45VN, and now it looks like they're going to Magna Cut. So, you know, there's an evolution there. So they, you know, evolve or die. That's kind of the motto, right? So fit and finish is really good. Airing of grievances. The sheath. I hate the sheath. To begin with, I am not a fan of Kydex sheaths. I know a lot of people are. You know, it has good retention. The knife is not going anywhere, but I hate the plasticky feel of Kydex on my knives. So I had Patriot Leather do a sheath for me, and this is so that I could wear on my belt, you know, and it kind of hides, you know, like in the small of my back, you know, just like that. It sits in the small of my back, and I can carry it like that. It's fairly unobtrusive, so that works. I think it's a little big. The sheath might be a little big for it, but you know, it works. So and I've talked about my airing of this grievance. You know, yes, you probably should put a lanyard on it, but I just don't know where to put my fingers on this thing. It just, you know, I like carrying it, but I hate cutting with it just because of that thing. So, you know, make of that what you will. Well, this is going to be kind of a shorter review because this is not a high utility knife. It's kind of a secondary knife, or tertiary, really. If you're going out in the woods, I wouldn't put this as my secondary blade. But I think it's a fun neck knife. I think it works well, and I just haven't had the heart to part with it. It's not expensive either, so you know, if you want to pull the trigger on this and just have something that is, you know, that looks cool and it's a little bit of fun, then yeah, I think it's nice to have. Well, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed it, and if you did, then like and subscribe. Don't get the notifications. Nobody likes to get notified. You know where to find my content if you want to see my videos. And until I see you at the next one, take care.